Hello everyone and welcome to STEM School. Today we're going to make a proper start on the Algebra unit as we're going to go over multiplying out single brackets. So we're going to do plenty of examples and I'll include some exam questions for GCSE and Scottish National 5 so you guys are best prepared. So multiplying out single brackets is something you'll do over and over again as you progress through the world of maths. In later videos I'll actually talk about multiplying out double brackets, which is really common exam questions, but we need to understand this as a stepping stone. So how do we do this? Well, we have a rule that says that you multiply everything inside the bracket by the term outside the bracket. So you'll be dealing with numbers and letters inside the bracket, but it could also be in the terms outside the bracket. And all you need to remember are the rules of algebra and the rules of indices. So for more clarification, check my previous video on an introduction to algebra for that topic. But I've done a wee reminder up here. So what you have to do is you multiply the numbers in front of the letters and you multiply any letters using the rules of indices, which I've written here. So what we have to do here is use these rules above, the rules of algebra and the rules of indices, to help work out these questions of multiplying out single brackets. So let's do the first question, okay? Just multiply the terms outside the bracket to all the terms inside the bracket. So let's start with 2 multiplied by 3x. Using this rule, what we'll get is 6x. You just multiply the numbers in front of the letters, okay? So 2 times 3 is 6, and then we'll do the last term in the bracket. We've got 2 times positive 5. So 2 times 5 is simply 10. Alright? Now this question, the second question, is quite similar to the first one, but here we've got a minus in the bracket, okay? But it's the exact same process. You do 4 multiplied by 2x. 4 times 2 is 8, and then we have 8x. So let's do 4 times minus 1. So 4 times minus 1 is minus 4. Okay. Now this third question, you have to be a bit more careful because we've got a negative outside the bracket and got a negative inside the bracket. So be careful with the negatives, okay? So we've got minus 6 times 4x. So 6 times 4 is 24. So we have minus 24x. Then we have minus 6 times minus 7. So we've got two negatives multiplying each other, so we get a positive. So it'll be positive 442, okay? Now the fourth one I made it a little bit harder because I've included a letter and the outside term, okay? Then I've also included a second letter, I've included a y, so we're dealing with x and y. So I'll show you how to work that out. It's very similar. So we have 2x multiplied by 3x, okay? So using this rule, you multiply the numbers in front of the letters. So 2 times 3 is 6, and then here we're multiplying like letters, so we have to use the rules of indices here. And the rules of indices state for multiplying, just add the powers, so it'll be 6x squared. And you just have to imagine a floating 1 there. You don't normally write it, so you just do 1 plus 1, and that's how you get the power for that. So let's do 2x multiplied by 4y. So that will just be 2 times 4 is 8. Then x, y, okay? Just add the y term onto the end. Now this fifth one, this is a bit more difficult because I've included a fraction, okay? So it's the same process. What we have to do is 7x multiplied by 2y. You just get 7 times 2 is 14, then x, y multiplying each other. Then let's deal with the fraction. 7x times minus 1 over x. So that will be minus. So this term outside the bracket, 7x, will go on the numerator. So it goes 7x over x, okay? And we can actually simplify that down because we can cancel the x in the numerator and the x in the denominator. So the answer will just be 14xy minus 7. There we go. Now this last one is even more complicated because we're dealing with fractional powers, okay? But we're still using the rules of indices. You just have to add the powers, okay, when you're multiplying like terms. So I'll write it out in full for you. So we're doing x to the power half multiplied by 2x to the half. So that will be 2x, sorry. So 2x, then we have a half plus a half. Okay, you just add the powers. So let's do x to the power of half multiplied by 3x to the third. So that will be plus 3 x to the power of a third plus a half. So when I used to get these kind of questions, I'd work out the fractions to the side of the question because I wasn't able to do it in my head, okay? So what we'll do is we'll do the first power, we'll do a half plus a half. So you have to just remember the rules of fractions. You can add fractions if you've got the same denominator, which we have here. So all you have to do is add the numerators together and you'll have the same denominator. So 1 plus 1 is 2, and you have the same denominator, 2 over 2, and that cancels down to 1, okay? Now let's do the third plus a half. So we have a third plus a half. So we want the same denominator. So for here we can make the denominator 6. So let's transform them. So we do a third times 2 over 2, okay? So we'll get 2 over 6, okay? Then we got a half. So if I want 6 in the bottom, I'll have to multiply by 3 over 3 using the rules of fractions. So that'll be 3 over 6. And we can add these fractions. So you just add the numerator and they have the same denominator. So 2 plus 3 is 5, and then over 6. So that's the powers. So let's sub that back in. So it'll be 2x to the power of a 1, which you don't need to write. Then we have 3x to the power of 5 over 6. So hopefully those examples have helped you understand this topic, but if you need more clarification then you have to do some textbook examples as practice. But what we'll do now is we'll move on to some exam questions, and multiplying out single brackets doesn't come up often for higher GCSE exam papers because it's usually part of a bigger question like multiplying out double brackets, something like that. But we've got a foundation question we can practice here. So we've got expand and simplify this expression. Okay, this is an expression because we don't have an equal sign. If we had an equal sign, then it would be called an equation. Okay, so that's the difference. So we use the exact same process. All you have to do is multiply the numbers outside the brackets with the numbers inside the brackets. So we have 3 times 2x, that'll be 6x. Then we have 3 times positive 5, and that'll be plus 15. Now let's move into the second part of the expression. So we have minus 2 times x, that'll be minus 2x. And then we have minus 2 times minus 4. Two negatives multiplied by each other is a positive, so we get positive 8. Okay? And this is where the simplify part comes in, because we've got two like terms. We've got two x terms here, and then we can also simplify the numbers down. So we have 6x minus 2x, and that'll be 4x. And then we've got plus 15 plus 8, so that'll be plus 23. Alright, so let's move on to the next exam question. As you can see in this question, we're dealing with nasty negative fractional powers. So it's easier to express this in a different form. We're going to use a different rule of indices, okay? So this is dealing with a rule where we have negative powers. So we've got this, a to the power of negative m can be expressed as 1 over a to the power of m. So we've got a positive power on the denominator, okay? So we can express these differently, okay? What we can say is that we can rewrite it as x to the power of a half multiplied. Now we're going to rewrite this using this form. So this will be 1 over x to the power of 3 over 2. So I put it as a reciprocal. And then we're going to do the exact same with this term. We've got 1 over x to the half. Okay? So when you see this, when you multiply this, you can put the term outside the bracket on the numerators, okay? So we've got x to the power of a half multiplied by this. So we have x to the power of a half all over x to the power of 3 over 2, okay? Then we've got positive, and then we've got x to the power of a half over x to the power of a half, okay? Because we're multiplying x to the power of a half times 1 over x to the power of a half. Now here we're going to use another rule of indices. This is where you have a division. So we have a to the power of n over a to the power of n. And what you do is you do a to the power of n, take away n. So what you do is you take away the powers. So it's similar to the multiplying, but this time you take away the powers. So what does that leave us with? So we've got x to the power of a half take away 3 over 2. I'll write it in full for you. And then we'll do with this one. So we've got x to the power of a half, take away a half. So I'm just using this rule when I'm taking away the powers. So what is that? Now, if you can't do this in your head, I didn't used to, so let's do this to the side. So let's do a half, take away 3 over 2. So we've got the same denominator, that means we can add or subtract them. So we just we'll take away the numerators here, so it'll be 1, take away 3, and that will be minus 2 over 2. We have the same denominator, and this will be negative 1, okay? Then we have a half, take away a half. Let's work out this power. We've got a half, take away a half. Same denominator again, so we can add or subtract these fractions. So we just do 0 over 2, okay? And that will just be 0, okay? So let's sub that back in. We've got x to the power of negative 1, and we've got plus x to the power of 0, okay? So x to the power of negative 1. Now it's better to express it where we have a positive power. So using this rule of negative powers, this would be a reciprocal 1 over x to the power of 1, but you don't need to write the 1, okay? Now let's deal with this one. We've got x to the power of 0, and this is where this rule comes into it. So anything to the power of 0 is simply 1, okay? There we have it. So I hope you guys found this video useful. Please do join me in my next video as we'll tackle factorising using single brackets, which is the next part of the algebra topic. And as always, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.